Hi, Hans.
Hi, John. Yeah, great to see you. 7 o'clock in the morning
Yeah,
for you.
welcome.
Yeah,
Yes, and the afternoon for you, right? We're covering the globe here.
yeah, that's true. That's correct.
Great.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for
So
having me.
let's dive right in. If you could give us just a quick introduction to yourself, and then we'll dive right into the questions.
Yeah, so my name's Hans. I'm the CEO of Parkopedia, and as such, responsible for everything that has to do with sales, partnerships, sourcing, marketing, etc. at Parkopedia, and I also have a few other responsibilities within the company. All of that on a global scale, and yeah, I'm deeply involved in establishing in-car commerce through the services that we provide to the automotive industry. And I have, I don't know, almost 20 years experience in connected cars, telematics, automotive, etc. You can see all the gray hair here. So there's a reason for that. And by the way, one little thing, the JP Morgan guys did not buy a stake in Volkswagen Financial Services. They acquired the PSP of Volkswagen Financial Services, Volkswagen ePay, based in Luxembourg. That came across incorrectly in the press, but it's an important difference. So they didn't buy financial services; they bought the PSP for Volkswagen. But it's an important piece
Got
of the
it.
puzzle. Yeah.
Yeah, we reached out to them earlier to try to get some more detail, and unfortunately, they I'm sure are fairly busy with all of that new work.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Hans, Parkopedia has been in vehicle payments through parking for quite some time. In fact, it's baked into your name. But now you're beginning to evolve into other use cases: EV charging, tolls, fuel payments. I'm sure the news around the different fueling enablement is going to help you in terms of providing that capability. So what from parking can now be brought in sites, and why are you going to be successful in these new use cases? What makes your approach now give you confidence in those new use cases?
Well, there are a number of reasons. First of all, we've been through a 7-year learning curve when it comes to in-car payments. So we first started with in-car payments in 2014 for on-demand payments in Europe with one European OE. And we understand the challenges around in-car payments, payment architecture, regulatory requirements, things like consumer protection, strong customer authentication in Europe, driver distraction rules. We understand the value of no friction in in-car commerce. I think we also understand the difference that contextual commerce and nudging can make. It increases transaction volume significantly. We understand the operational issues of actually running in-car commerce operations on an ongoing basis. We've built a very robust platform that serves parking, 3 different types of parking payments, payment flows. And we are PCI DSS compliant, so we can actually hold credit cards on file. We meet a lot of the other requirements that are standard in this context and that are necessary to actually operate something, to build it and operate it. So we've built this, and then customer of ours turned around and said, guys, you support 3 different payment flows in parking today. So one is prepayments, and this is the standard use case in parking reservations, for example. You support cases where you initiate a payment transaction, but the payment itself only happens on stop, and that's a standard case in street parking, for example. And you also have a system that allows you to manage payments for parking scenarios, which we call drive up. It's effectively a scenario where a vehicle is whitelisted. We use the license plate as a credential. The vehicle is recognized at the barrier, at the gate, drives in, drives out again, and then there's a billing process in the background. And those billing processes have been built, they're robust, they're in production with major OEs. So this is not some vaporware or anything, but this is auto grade. And then customers of ours said, hang on a minute, with these three types of services, you can actually help us solve the problems we have with other vehicle-centric transactions, because we can effectively apply the platform to fuel transactions, for example, to EV transactions, to tolling. And that's what we then took on, developed further, and here we are. That's kind of how we got there. So it's experience in terms of use cases, in terms of what works and what doesn't. It's the tech platform that has been built over years, is established, offers key components that are necessary for a successful in-car payment offering. So seamless onboarding, user management, we call that single sign-on. Other people call it federated accounts, but with one central account run by the OE, the transaction flows that we've built, and our payment orchestration capabilities in the backend. And we have
Great.
customers.
And so
we
I
have
guess we would say that.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
No, and we have customers that have already mandated us to take things further beyond the pure parking payments and the different types of parking payments that we're already providing to them. So we're actually in the next step of building and taking things to deployment for the specific use cases of these OEs.
Great. So I guess you would say that you're a bigger fan of integrated than you are of marketplace. I mean, I think I believe Parkopedia has been involved in kind of both scenarios. So can you elaborate more on kind of the benefits of integrated?
Sure. So we started with a bring your own account solution in parking payments in 2014. We then had other initiatives, including initiatives in the US between 2015 and 2017-18. And what we saw is that in marketplace scenarios, there are a number of issues that lead to very low user benefit, user uptake, and hence transactions. Obviously, one of the items is clunky onboarding, the need to maintain accounts with the merchants individually. That's a huge barrier and it creates huge friction. The user experience is not unified. The expansion and the coverage is limited. And the marketplace solutions that we've seen so far don't work. I mean, we've seen the latest casualty very recently with two major American OEs suffering from that as we speak. What we see where we see the value of in-car commerce is an in-car commerce solution that we call integrated, which means that it's part of the driver experience, the location experience, and that is far superior to a pure marketplace scenario that is not part of the driving experience in the vehicle. And one key driver there is that the in-car commerce solution, the proposition to the consumer needs to create real user benefit. If the solution is a pure replica of a smartphone application, it will fail. It will not go anywhere, because why in the world should you use a toned down, a limited version of a smartphone application that runs in the dash, yes, but that doesn't provide you with the full capabilities of what you have on your smartphone. That does not provide comprehensive coverage, etc. So why should you use that as a driver? There are no real reasons to do that. It's always easier to just pull up your phone or pull out your phone and use your phone for those services. The second thing is, if you want to create a frictionless experience, and the ideal for us is like an Amazon one-click, and I see Jeff Furman will come on stage later on. That's critical. So it has to be frictionless. It has to be easy, and it has to be, as Jeff Bezos once said, customer delight. It needs to be convenient, comfortable, and it also needs to be comprehensive. So you need to have the coverage, not just individual applications that deliver parts of the coverage individually. No, you need one solution that has a wide coverage in parking, ideally across the different types of parking, street parking, and parking garages, parking lots, etc. So both of that has to be covered in one solution, including the data piece, so that the user has a complete experience in terms of data, in terms of transactions across the entire service offering that is available out there, and all of that in a one-click scenario, or one-word scenario if you use voice commerce. So it's about creating a contextual customer delight solution that leverages location, vehicle context, i.e. vehicle sensor data, temporal context, and ideally also personal context. And some people say it's about creating a map store experience and not an app store experience. So if it's deeply integrated, if it's relevant, and if you can nudge people, the drivers, and avoid driver distraction, which is also part of this, then you get to a good solution.
Great. So we're seeing the emergence of kind of, in addition to vehicle OSs or infotainment OSs, the emergence of kind of vehicle cloud platforms, which are promising to provide more developer access to infotainment systems and then to drivers of those customers. Things like Android Automotive, GM just announced Utilify, and there's Ford Sync too. So how does Parkopedia integrate in those scenarios, or how do you find that your solution fits within the evolving ecosystem?
Well, first of all, Parkopedia is completely agnostic when it comes to OSs. We're largely a backend-to-backend service provider and manager of aggregated services. We're not necessarily the one that provides a client experience. So we don't care what the OS is when it comes to that piece. On the App Store side, I have to say that in-car app stores have yet to prove that they can work. As I said earlier, I've been around the block for a while, and I have not really seen any app stores succeed in automotive. Actually, all of them have failed so far. And the only apps that have traction in those scenarios are navigation speed cam and audio apps. Everything else, most other services, standalone in-car apps, do not really offer a compelling reason why. That's what we see today, and that's what's happened so far. Where we see angles for Parkopedia in this is obviously that number one would be for us to be or to continue working with the providers of navigation solutions, of driver experience solutions. As is probably known, we're a provider to Apple Maps, TomTom, Telenav, Cigic, Garmin, NNG, and a few others that are not public. And we're supporting the development of solutions that actually create a location-based experience for the driver that has the navigation, the map, the navigation experience, the rich POI experience that we deliver as well in parking, but also elsewhere, plus the transaction experience, i.e. a complete scenario for the driver. And that's where we see the main angle for us at this point. Now, the second angle that we see is that we leverage our user management and our payment capabilities for the store, for a store-like scenario itself, if an OE wants to pursue this. And that would allow an OE to have a central user account, a central onboarding, central user account, and the payment capabilities with one credit card on file centrally to subscribe, buy, license, whatever, certain services. Could even be a vehicle service, plus obviously do the transaction within applications. So scenario could be you as a user, you buy a certain service, and even that could go all the way to buying extra torque. And then at the same time, you can pay for your parking within a parking application. So that's another angle for this. But for us, I always say nobody ever goes anywhere just to park. So parking and other vehicle-centric services are secondary services. We support the primary user experience that takes you to your destination. And most of the vehicle-centric cases that we support, no, actually all of them, are not cases where people just go to a parking garage or an EV charger or drive through a toll segment just to do that. They do it because they want to go somewhere else. They do it because they're low on gas or whatever, so they can get to their destination. So it's all about secondary use cases that need to support the primary use cases of the driver experience in the car.
Got it. And so although it's an integrated solution, you have the ability to extend that out to those additional use cases as well, whether it's distributed via smartphone or smart speaker or some other method.
Yeah, our platform is architected that way. Whether that's really something we want to pursue or not is a different story, but we have the capability to do that, and that would enable OEs to basically create a solution that gives them a Play Store plus a Google Play without the Google in there.
Okay. And then, so Parkopedia has been in working with OEMs for about 7 years, since 2014.
Yep.
Can you share some key findings or some highlights as to what's involved in an OEM deploying this capability to their customers? So what are some of the key considerations that they need to make?
Yeah. So the first one would be clear objectives. What exactly do you want to achieve? Is it user experience? Is it brand loyalty? Is it customer engagement? Is it customer data? Or is it short-term profit? And the only one that doesn't really work is short-term profit, to be clear. So there are some people that get direction from their senior management. Oh, we need to have service revenues next quarter. Well, it doesn't work that way. And look at the Amazon history. Amazon was created in 1994 or something, if I'm not mistaken. It took them a while to become profitable because they invested into customer delight. I don't think it would take that long, but it's not something that happens overnight. And forget all the consultants that tell you otherwise. There are loads of people out there that are telling all sorts of stories and have no clue what they're talking about. So it's about getting the objectives straight and really understanding what you want to achieve. The second one is modesty. A lot of OEMs, I have to say, think that they are big and beautiful. And of course they are. But that being big and beautiful, they think that all the developers out there and the service providers will race to support their in-car platforms. Well, I got some bad news. It's not like that, not at all. The only ones that race to be part of a platform are small startups with shaky services, unproven business models, and greedy VCs. The other ones, the real partners, have bigger fish to fry. So it's one has to be really careful about that. It's not like you say you want to do something and the entire industry is queuing to support that. That's not the way it works. That plays an important role, for example, in the way you architect your or you design your payment architecture. Because, for example, making service providers integrate with you is something that will create a very high level of friction if you want to actually create something that works. It is much smarter to have solutions that leverage the existing payment flows and that integrate with the existing payment architectures of the merchants. Payments and e-commerce are also a new field for many OEs. Learnings from the past don't really work. It's complex, and the issues are always in places where you don't expect them. And some OEs hire individuals that didn't make it at Google, Amazon, or Apple and think that they can solve their problem that way. Well, bad news, doesn't work. But there's good news. It's about leveraging the strength of automotive. Do not try to compete with Google or Amazon. They're great companies in their domains and very clever. They can execute, create a unique experience. You control the canvas, you control the vehicle sensors. It's about what you make of it. Make the best of it. That's where we see it. Do not replicate what others have done on a smartphone. Create an in-car experience that is part of the overall driver experience, unique to the HMI and the overall experience that you create in the car. And the other thing is, and that's one very, very critical point, it's about the long run. At many OEMs, even today, it's still about getting a feature out and then moving on to the next generation of head unit, for example. We see that all the time. Oh yeah, we built this, there's SOP, and then the whole team is kind of dissolved, moves on, does other things, etc. And nobody ever manages the in-car commerce solution properly. And in-car commerce is not like releasing a new head unit or a new infotainment system. It's day-to-day analytics, improvements, a little screw here, a little screw there, developing it, learning from what you see, and creating customer delight every single day. And most OEMs are not equipped to do that today. And that's a huge problem, and it's also one of the reasons why app stores don't work.
Got it. Well, Hans, we are coming up on time here, and I really want to just appreciate you joining us for this conversation. And you'll be joining us again in about an hour to talk more about EV, which we touched on only briefly, and together with Chris Moyer, the CTO of Exelon. So looking forward to that discussion, and thanks again for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. It was a real pleasure. Thank you.